Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit, and this is your host, Krishanu Goswami. Today's subject is how quantum science can deal with negative emotions. Now, don't think that we are exploring this subject because of the current circumstances of the world. We have to understand that negative emotions are inbuilt in us and they will impede our progress, they will hamper our growth in many ways throughout our life, under whatever circumstances we are in. So, these are permanent enemies that we need to take care of. And when I say enemies, I may not be entirely correct because they have their functions too. However, I am talking in the context of our growth, our objectives, and our purpose of life. So, in this, how quantum science can help us. And to explain this today, we have our two guests, Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisar. A very warm welcome to both of you. This is something, the subject is like there have been thousands of books on this, various discussions, people how to handle them. Self-help industry was born, part of it at least was born to handle this. However, things still go wrong. People still feel negative emotions. They are driven by them. What we want to understand from you, uh, firstly from Professor Goswami, we as our in our standard human condition or base level human condition, how we can use quantum science and the teachings of it in handling these emotions that are impeding our growth.
Thank you, Krishna. Of course, this question should be put in this way. Uh, how can quantum physics help you to deal with negative emotions? Because quantum science brings you in the forefront of experiences, and that is its forte. That is what could not be done under materialist science, the current science paradigm, which assumes that everything is mechanical, following Newton's famous laws, determined laws. In that view, we are worse than machines in the sense that not only we are machines in the sense that we don't have any free will or anything, we are just a ornamental mechanism with speech, but um, that is just a description of our experience rather than experiencing it ourselves. It's the brain which causes everything, is the view. And why is it worse than robots? At least robots don't have to deal with negative emotions. Emotions are not computable, so we cannot make an emotional robot. It would be a pretension. Of course, we could build these pretend circuits in the robotic model, but that won't help it. That would help in only program responses to program stimuli, but anytime anything unexpected happens, uh, machine programming cannot deal with it, cannot anticipate it, obviously. So, in this way, um, the science, materialist science, has not done very well with emotions. And let alone give you an emotion pill, which would be nice, but it can't. It doesn't work that way. Emotions are brain circuits, and drugs can alter the brain. It is true, but then you are not really getting rid of negative emotions necessarily. Uh, Although temporary diversion may occur, but as the drug experience runs out, you are back again with your negative emotion. People have tried suppression. That's another way, but suppression now is well known to be connected with serious disease like cancer, heart disease, autoimmune disease. So better not to go that route as a solution. How about expression? The expression is even worse because not only you are suffering, but people around you also begin to suffer. And that's the thing. Emotions are contagious. I have heard a psychologist say, make a funny statement that emotions are more contagious than bacteria and viruses, which may very well be true. Here you are in a good mood, and then somebody with a bad mood comes to your vicinity, and you lose that good mood. And that's because you have brain neurons we pick up automatically. That's brain picks up. This part is true. Brain just mirrors the behavior of the other. And that's the reason that we pick up the negative emotions. Isn't that sad? Now, do we have any remedy? Remedy is actually there. It's a very simple remedy. You know the ordinary arithmetic, plus and minus added together gives you 0. Plus 2 minus 2 is 0. So that's the solution and is easy to guess. Do we have any positive emotions, emotional brain circuit uh, to balance the negative? That's the problem. Brain has 5 times more negativity than positivity. And even that little positivity, many kids don't get when they grow up. For example, often boys are told by the father that it is not manly to be emotional. So they learn to suppress emotions from childhood. And once you learn to suppress, the negative emotions are universal. They never go away, but you suppress also the positive emotions that could happen your way. And you don't get to make the emotional circuits that you could have made it properly grown in your childhood. It is that serious a problem. Now, how does quantum science even help in this situation? By the way, can religions help? Again, it's a bomb, temporary diversion, that could help a little bit, but ultimately, no. Religions also fail because they also do not give you any power. For religions, it's the devil who makes you do it. For mechanistic scientists, it's the machine, so you do it because you are helpless. Unconscious brain circuits come and take you over. And for religion, it's devil, whoever that may be, takes you over. Either way, you are not doing it. And so you cannot do anything to deal with it either. In this, quantum science, even the conception of it shows you promise. Why? Because in quantum science, whatever happens to the brain in response to a stimulus, both the brain and the stimulus will be in potentiality before they become experience. How do they become experience? They become experience only when consciousness chooses. And that's us. Agreed that we don't choose in our ordinary ego consciousness because that's already a bit forgetful and backward. But if we could experience momentarily the present centered consciousness that we also have, then we could see ourselves as choosing. That's called unity consciousness. Spiritual traditions discovered it, and now quantum physics has affirmed it, experimentally verified by various experiments. Okay, so choosing. This is very good because what quantum physics then is saying is that in response to any stimulus, including negative stress stimulus, we respond with possibilities. Brain becomes a bunch of possibilities. Brain circuits are a bunch of possibilities. Brain circuits, as I said, yes, 80%, more than 80%, 5 times more negative than positive, agreed. But still, there's 15 to 20% of chance of positive, right? Negative, more chance. Positive, a little chance, still finite chance. 1 in 5 is not so bad. And if I am very, very careful, I can choose the positive. There is one more bugaboo, which is that negative emotions, that perception happens in the midbrain, not in the cortex, the front part of the head. Cortex brain has three concentric shells. The outer part is the frontal lobes, all that. That's where the cortex is, and that's where our thinking brain is. But the middle brain, middle shell, called limbic brain, that's where the emotions are, in an organ called amygdala. And this emotional processing is the primary processing, much faster for good reason. You have heard of fear and response to fear, which is flight or fight, and that response better happen quickly. In order for surviving a tiger, you need to jump away, run away quickly. So it's better not to have the thinking brain thinking about, should I run away or should I fight this tiger? Better to run away before you have chance to think. This is why millions of years of instinctual build-up through animals has given us these circuits. They act faster than the cortex. So although we have a bit of positive emotion, we cannot even choose because even before choice, the negative emotional circuits have already acted. So what do we do is not so easy to figure out, even with quantum worldview, even with the fact that yes, we have choice. First of all, we don't have enough probability to really provide a good computation. So you really, really have to be sensitive. And then second of all, what to do about this very fast aspects of at least that flight or fight response. Although the good news is, and Valentina will elaborate on this more, good news is that the other responses and those negative emotions come because uh, our pleasure is thwarted. Those responses are a little bit different in the sense that they are not as spontaneous as the flight fight responses. I'm talking about pleasure like eating, pleasure like sex, and somebody thwarts it, and we get angry, we get jealous, and we get that kind of, or we dominate the other so that that kind of situation does not arise. All this is in response to we want to get our desires satisfied, pleasure satisfied. And those responses, we really do have a little more control. So this is dealing with a different class of negative emotions than those fear related ones, flight, fight response. So in this way, uh, uh, here at least, jealousy, domination, this kind of thing that leads to sexual harassment, that leads to sexual abuse, this kind of thing, at least, we may be able to control. But how? It's still a challenge. If you ask spiritual tradition, they will just say, meditate. Yeah, that's part of it, but there is more to it than that. And for that, let's hear Valentina Onisa, who is an expert on quantum yoga. Vishanu?
Well, everybody likes good news and everybody likes solutions. So, Dr. Onisar, over to you for some good news.
Thank you. And the answer, it's impossible to be given in a short way. So first thing which I'll do is to really recommend you this book. It's called The Quantum Brain, right? So fully recommended. You will find things that you're not finding elsewhere to explain all that you need to start with, because we first of all we have to understand what is this human base level condition, and then how we can start to really create also the positive emotional brain circuits. um, what is with the positive emotions, how does the brain get this negative software, And it's a whole story about that. And even questions like, do we experience pure feelings in the brain at all, will be answered there. And many, many other things. You will understand also about the chakras, many things which you didn't get from other studies you might have found. Also, the fact that the negative emotional brain circuits are actually universal software and all that means. And also, it's a wonderful study which is waiting for you in these books. And indeed, the moment we start realizing that we have embedded in our brain all these negative emotional brain circuits, and then maybe you start accepting and looking I mean, you have to start with from somewhere. And the good news is that from wherever we are, we can start, and we should start this process of transformation, which takes responsibility, it takes courage. I mean, it's not easy to acknowledge and to accept certain realities about our personalities, for example, yeah, because we are spending all this time mostly with ourselves, right? And we cannot run away so much of all the conditions that we have. You know, that's why one of the things I'm recommending to my patients or students is to have a journal. And again, even making this journal, it is such an exercise which can be difficult initially, you know. And now some of these negative emotions that we may encounter very well in these periods, also in ourselves, for example, emptiness, fear, sufferance, anxiety, all that. Yeah. And also, speaking of this period and all this negative emotional brain circuits that now maybe are more activated for most of people, you can again look again at these situations and see them with courage, also as some point of a crisis that is full also of a special potential of transformation for ourselves, you know. You will see, like, I'm also noticing that people have this chance to become more human, you know, to really create these communities, to bond. And even when one faces a lot of emptiness, or deep fear, you know, or where you, everything that you knew before, which seemed to depend on something external that now you realize you may lack, you know, or on someone that you don't find around, you know. So all these things may very well come up for some reason. And of course, we have all this collective situation, you know. We are not alone, we are not just individuals. We need to do our homework. Let's start from where we are, work on ourselves. But eventually there's also a collective thing, a collective point of transformation that we are all going through right now, as it is, you know. So we have to see these things, you know. And this state of emptiness, for example, that I noticed many of my patients are talking about these states, lived, of course, as negative experiences, unpleasant, fearful, almost deadly, you know, when whatever you're looking for, what you perceive as vital, you know, is lacking from your reach, you know. And of course, the measure of such sufferance is depending on the degree of the necessity of that what you're lacking. And the same feeling can appear also due to lack of real depth in our life, you know. So in this era of consumerism, it is obviously, you know, it's common sense that sooner or later such state of emptiness to show that you're not really doing the steps which are required towards your dharma, towards, I mean, people are obviously for so much time out of reach for meaning and purpose. You know, we are just more and more into the consumerism, which is not consumerism of books, it's consumerism of material things. And now what's happening? Just look, I mean, the life is answering, and all this that we see outside, it's also the wars that we have out in the inside, you know, all this emptiness that eventually is perceived now outside. It's also reflecting the lack of depth in our life, the lack of meaning, depth of meaning and purpose also. So, and then you eventually start to study this problem of, it's called also void experience, according to the level of maturity where we are, you know, ego, personality, and deep aspects, opening eventually towards transcendence. Yeah. So there are stages how we develop. also in our courses, we go, I mean, deep into all these stages of transformation. We have a course on mental health and many others. So again, it's a wonderful, huge subject which refers to every single person living, right? And we can just give a taste, which hopefully that will encourage everyone to just see the situation as it is and take it really. Anything can be taken from this perspective of transformation. Yeah, and of course it's easier said than done. Yeah, but still this impression of being, for example, lonely and abandoned is of course causing this psychic traumas through this negative process of resonance, yeah, or lack of resonance with higher archetypes. Yeah, this process of resonance, I heard it first of all described in esoteric yoga school, which I appreciate very much, and then we took it further with the quantum science explanation. And Amit has mentioned all this, okay, so whatever, all this fight between good and bad and angelic, satanic, whatever, so all this, think of them also as a lack of high meaningful resonance. Yeah, so if that is applicable also when you think of disease, so lack of resonance with something higher, with something that makes sense, eventually will put you in this state of chaos, which can generate, of course, a lot of diseases. So you're keeping a state of hate or lack of forgiveness or any kind of negative emotional that you may indulge with, just not wanting to act upon it for whatever reasons, one of them being that the other person that doesn't deserve to be forgiven, for example. But you're not doing this for other people. It is you, first of all. So whatever indulgence we may have done in the past, now I see that it's no more time to do this kind of indulgences, you know. I kind of, it's a time to act in a superior way as much as we have time. You know, it's time to act, to love. It's time to act and forgive. It's time to really now act and improve in this way, to bring further all these infinite potentialities of positive emotional brain circuits that we also have as well. But of course it's 5 times more difficult to bring them in action, especially if all the negative ones have been dominating for whatever reasons. You know, it doesn't matter why now. The point is that it matters to right now to take responsibility for your life. And then eventually you'll see that this will reflect in your life, it will reflect in the society. Otherwise, what's happening? Yes, it's robots everywhere. Many people are already there, just robots, you know. So all this artificial intelligence era that is pushed upon us, all this lack of discernment, which shows that actually we lack a lot of intelligence. Just see what's happening. You know, it's not time to blame others. Just start working with yourself from wherever you are, you know.
Yeah, that's a very good piece of advice that people should start working on them wherever they are. The waves will keep coming, and we cannot postpone the swim just because waves are there. Thank you so much, Dr. Oniswar. Now back to Professor Goswami for a wrap up and your further comments.
Well, one question that I often get is that the negative emotional brain circuits are universal. Why can't our positive emotions that we generate, and people have generated, I mean, there have been many people like Mahatma Gandhi, nonviolence. He practiced what he preached. That was a nonviolent guy. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Bishop Tutu, Dalai Lama. These guys have plenty of positive emotions. Why can't we inherit their positive emotions? Just like we have inherited the negative emotions from animals. It's not through genes. That more or less everyone now, in view of epigenetics, agree. This software is not the product of the hardware. Software is independent. This is how the concept of vital energy comes in. Movement of software is felt as vital energy. That's what we call feeling. And feeling plus thinking, giving meaning to the feelings is what makes it into an emotion. Negative because it feels bad when you have these emotions, positive when you feel good when you have those positive emotions. That's the distinction between positive and negative. Like positive, dislike, negative. Okay, but just like we inherit the negative, why can't we inherit the positive from those great rishis of the Upanishads? Jesus' time, there are so many Christian mystics, and afterwards, so many shamans in Mexico and South America, so many great Sufi masters, Rabia, Rumi, they had positive emotional brain circuits. Why can't we inherit their positive emotional circuits? And this is a very, very, very good question. The reason is by the time these people were living, humanity was not connected anymore. Humanity was very connected initially when human beings generated from the apes. The evolution happens and then evolution branches out. So the apes gave human branch and the modern monkeys. Okay. And we got it from those mutual parents, the original apes, the negative emotion. And why? Because they are all connected. This connection is called non-locality in quantum physics. This is experimentally verified. You don't need to have any doubt about it, no controversy. Why can't we get that? Because we are not connected anymore. Ever since we had the agricultural era, ever since we are dealing with rational part of ourselves and making that supreme, rationality is computable, gets more and more disconnected from the non-local part, which is the archetypes. Valentina mentioned the word archetype. Love, goodness, justice. Those are the archetypes that contributes to our good feelings, positive emotions. But when we are centered on our brain, mind, thinking, we are not connected, and therefore you cannot get my circuit. Non-locally, non-locality, non-local connection I don't have with you. And even if I establish it, it would be only momentary. Yes, momentarily we do establish because we can love another, but that momentariness will not allow us to have the same brain circuit. My brain circuit, my transformation will not work for you. Except that there is a hopeful proposition we can make. Why can't we be connected again? So that's the challenge of a challenge of the future of humanity. Right now, it's hard to even think of. We have war going on, we talk about peace. It's all piecemeal. We talk about peace, it will happen, again, war will break out because we are never changing those negative emotional brain circuits. We are never able to produce the balancing circuits for the ignoramus, for the idiots, for the machine-like people. And that's the problem. Roughly about 15% of humanity wants peace, 15% of humanity seriously wants to deal with negative emotions, and quantum science is already helping some of them, but cannot help the ones who are situated in hate, in domination, in supremacy, and all this. And we cannot do that overnight. Somehow we have to penetrate those thick skulls and get their brain minds to cooperate and make them part of a friendly group of people. Then we'll be connected again. So if you're listening to this broadcast, and please remember this. It's our duty to make connections as much as possible. The work starts here, just as Valentina said. Start where you are. Start where you are. Right now you are disconnected. Why don't you make a commitment that, okay, from now on I'll create connections? First, I create connections with my intimate people, and then I branch out, friends, people in my country, people in my community, people in my country, people in my continent, people on the whole earth, like that. Big challenge, but time is on our side. Thank you. Vishanu?
Thank you so much. This is really a big challenge, but this is a very interesting challenge. And frankly speaking, we used to connect even a few decades earlier. People used to connect more than what they do. So it is not lost. We still have the skill, we only just have to use it. And for our viewers, please visit our website www.amitgoswami.org. You will get a lot of material about what we are talking about. You will get to know what we are up to. You will get updated videos and a lot of things. Plus, you can ask us questions, which we really, really encourage. We want your feedback. Write to us, and we'll be very, very glad to reply to you. Please keep on seeing these videos that we post every week, and your response to it, if it can do a little good, also, this is a success. Thank you so much, Professor Goswami, and thank you so much, Dr. Onisor. It was really, really nice to have both of you here. See you next week.